Am I the asshole for being rude to my brother-in-law in front of everyone? I, 19F, am pregnant with my ex's, 22M, baby. We are on good terms and when the baby is born we will have 50-50 custody. 2 weeks ago I moved into my sister, 35F, and BIL's, 37M, house. My sister and brother-in-law practically begged me to move in with them because they wanted to experience being pregnant. My sister is infertile. Living with my sister and brother-in-law has been very stressful. They are always on top of me about my eating habits and are always around me. Especially Bill. Brother-in-law insists that I think of him as the baby's father. It's really annoying because when my baby's actual father is around he feels the need to always one-up him. One time when one of my sister's friends came over he talked about the baby as if it was his. Yesterday my other sister was hosting a family dinner at her house and brother-in-law came. While I was on the couch he came in front of me and started talking to my baby and referring to himself as daddy. It was extremely embarrassing because everyone was looking and I was very pissed off. I told him to get the fuck up and to stop touching me. My brother-in-law looked very embarrassed and my sister was very mad. They both left. After that I went with my brother to get my clothes and everything from the house. I got a thread of texts from my sister calling me an ungrateful "see you next Tuesday." She told me how I embarrassed her and Bill. I asked some friends and they told me that I was in the wrong because my sister let me stay at her house rent-free and some say that I'm not in the wrong. I honestly don't know and I need unbiased answers. I sometimes do say things unfiltered when I feel strong emotions so this may be one of those situations. Edit. Thank you guys for the congratulations. I just want to clarify some things. My baby's father does want to be in my baby's life and we broke up a month before I found out I was pregnant, and yes we are on good terms. He does live 2 hours away though so I don't see him 4 times a month. I understand now that their reasoning for wanting me to move in was creepy and a major red flag, but from my point of view I just thought it was her wanting to see what pregnancy was like because she couldn't have kids. I was not planning to live there my whole pregnancy, it was only supposed to be for a month and I would move back in with my parents. Do you think someone convinced them that you would allow them to adopt your baby? Like your mom or someone? Because that behavior screams that they view that baby as theirs. Not the asshole, don't ever stay with them again. Your brother-in-law is way the fuck out of line. Could be their infertility issues, or he could just be a weirdo. Either way it would be a big no from me dog. By the way, stop taking advice from your friends that see nothing weird in this situation, they are clueless. Not the asshole. My sister and brother-in-law practically begged me to move in with them because they wanted to experience being pregnant. Why that alone did not send up every red flag from here to North Korea for you, I do not know. But it is incredibly clear to anyone not fixated on the free rent part of this that your sister and brother-in-law believe you are carrying this baby for them as a surrogate. If that is not in fact the case, continue to stay out and keep clear of them, and get a good lawyer and emergency services on speed dial in case they try to force the issue. Did you let them believe that they were going to adopt the baby? Because it sounds like they think of you as their surrogate. Not the asshole and move out. EU and not the asshole. Your brother-in-law is acting next level creepy with the whole daddy thing. I think it's best that you moved. She told me how I embarrassed her and Bill. I sure hope you told her how your brother-in-law embarrassed you. And #X200B. I asked some friends and they told me that I was in the wrong because my sister let me stay at her house rent-free. And that's supposed to justify her thread of texts and other actions? And #X200B. Not the asshole. Your sister's in denial of her own wrongdoings. Am I the asshole for not saving my girlfriend's son when he was pinned under a bench press? I'm a 36-year-old man, and my girlfriend is 34. I'll call her Jenny. She has a son, who is 14, from a previous relationship. I'll call him George. Jenny and I get along well in basically all but one department, George. As bad as this is going to make me sound, I really don't like this kid, but Jenny's rose-tinted glasses for him might as well be painted with a coat of black at this point. She legitimately cannot stop enabling his bad behavior, let alone recognize it for what it is. This friction has only gotten worse as she moved in with me 2 months ago because they could no longer afford to live alone. I have a basement gym that I have poured over $7,000 into. It has multiple types of high-end barbells, a power rack, and various other equipment. In past days I was a competitive powerlifter, and although I've scaled back a lot on that front, I still train very hard. When Jenny and George moved in, George started to use my home gym uninvited. I first warned him not to, but by lying through his teeth, he has consistently done it behind my back. I can tell because he leaves barbells loaded and equipment moved. I then put a lock on the door, which George broke down with a hammer. I then reinforced the door and put a new lock on, which George could not penetrate. Jenny, however, insists on having a spare key to the basement, and I recently learned that she has been loaning it to George. She tried cleaning up after him, but I could tell. Since he and she are home during the day as he takes lessons online, plays Minecraft with the teacher muted, I can do nothing about it. Jenny won't return my key either. A couple of days ago, I got home from work and decided to hit the gym. Noticing the door open, I walked down the stairs, only to find George in the middle of a bench press set. As I watched him from the stairs, he went for one representative too many and got pinned. He was in no danger at any point because the barbell was low on his sternum, and plus it was only like 80 pounds. After 30 seconds of panic mode, he finally got the bright idea to dump the weight, to which I gave him a slow clap. I started to tell him that that's what happens when you work out alone, and he then shrieked at me red-faced. Then he insulted my strength, to which I responded that I'm not the one getting pinned under an 80-pound bench. He ran upstairs basically in tears, and then told Jenny what I had said. Jenny is also furious at me and they're both giving me the silent treatment. She says I should have handled the situation better, but I say I kind of did when I installed a heavy-duty door and put a new lock on it. I'm going to be changing the lock tomorrow. Did I go too far with how I dealt with George here? Edit. Sorry. I call him Craig at some point. That isn't his real name either. George equals Craig because for some reason I got confused between two names that don't sound similar whatsoever. If you don't like her son, I would end the relationship, to be honest. Not the asshole. And it's a good idea for George and Jenny to move out as soon as they can. She is enabling his bad behavior and showing zero respect for you. This is not going to get any better. That really says more about her than it does about George. Whatever you do, don't marry this woman, unless you want to deal with George for the rest of your life. As a parent, not the asshole. She is not just enabling him, she is deliberately undermining you. She's lying to you that her kid isn't using the equipment. She then insists on a spare key. The only reason to have a spare key to the gym is to give her son access to it. She is then cleaning up after him to try to hide this. A hammer was taken to a lock installed in your house? And she did nothing? Pretty outrageous. She is now mad, because her kid got caught doing the thing she has been lying to you about. You need to make clear to her that he is not allowed in there alone for safety reasons. You happened to be there this time and could have acted if needed, but he is in there alone. And we know he's not responsible. She should be concerned for his safety. Not the asshole. I think you're the one viewing things through rose-tinted glasses. It's not just a matter of enabling him, your girlfriend is using you. She's refusing to give you the spare key to your gym for the sole purpose of using it to violate your wish to not have that kid in there. That is beyond disrespectful. And now you have to change the lock again because she will not relinquish the key. Even better, she's punishing you with the silent treatment. Question. What happens when she demands the new key for the new lock you'll get? Will she keep giving you the silent treatment until you yield? This relationship isn't healthy. Not the asshole. Are you sure you want the liability if these two in your home? Info. If you dislike this kid so much, why are you still with her? She is always going to put her kid first because that's her kid. What has he done that's made you dislike him so much? Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she is cold and cynical? My GF, 26F, and I, 27M, have been dating for about a year. We've been talking more about serious matters since I want to ask her to move in with me. I'm a pilot and she's an engineer and we met at work. She is definitely the most responsible and practical girl I've ever met, must the engineer in her. She is very pragmatic and very mathematical, which I find very attractive. But recently we had a conversation that I find very troubling. We were talking about having kids, which she says she only wants one, maybe two. To be clear, I don't have an issue with that, I don't want a huge number, but I casual asked why. She told me it was an amount she was comfortable raising alone if she was widowed or became a single mother. I was shocked that she had thought of that and told her I would never leave her to raise children alone, and she told me I can't promise that, plus she has worked around enough pilots to know how common cheating with colleagues or divorce are, and that she would expect me to be faithful and for our relationship to be permanent, but she won't put herself in the position of relying on me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and asked her why she would date me if she assumed if cheat. She shrugs and tells me cheating is extremely common and all those people's spouses don't think their partner will cheat and they do it anyway, so she would never use faith on something like that to guide her life. I just don't know what to say and ask her if she is cynical because she's been cheated once. She gets annoyed and says her exes are surprisingly decent people, but she's rather learn from other people's mistake than her own. I told her that was so cold and she told me to look back on this conversation in 20 years when I am older and wiser and realize she is right. You are the asshole. She's not saying she thinks you'll cheat or die. She's saying that those things do in fact happen to people and she doesn't ever want to be in a position where she has to fear for her ability to provide for her children. That's simply true and responsible. And no one wants to be in a situation where they wish they had been less naive. Abortion rights are under attack and every woman, engineer or not, has had to think extensively about options. Edit. Grammar. You are the asshole. Don't be so emotional. It's not about you personally. She's a smart and logical person. You can bet anything built by her won't fail, and that includes a family. She builds in many degrees of safety and that's okay. Life's unpredictable. If you can't rise above your ego and appreciate that about her, then you're not right for each other and stop wasting her time. We have insurance so that if one of us dies, the other isn't left homeless. It's not cold, it's sensible. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. She's being pragmatic and realistic. You are the asshole. She's right. You can't promise that you'll be around. You could get in a car crash and die. She's being real with you. For someone who claims he loves those qualities in her, you don't like her words because they aren't music to your ears. Would you rather her lie to you at this point just for you to hear what you want instead? You are the asshole. She's got her head on right far as protecting her and any future kids she may have. She is totally right about there always being what-if scenarios. She's right. And 1-2 kids really is a reasonable number for most folks these days anyway. Am I the asshole for calling my SIL a worthless POC? Edit. POC stands for piece of crap in this story. I forgot about the other definition and am unable to edit the title. Many apologies. So my wife and I went to a summer beach party and took our 6-year-old daughter with us. 6-year-old is a strong swimmer and knows not to get into the water without alerting us, so although we were watching her, we weren't hovering over her. She was making a drip castle by the edge of the water. I was playing football with some guys a fair distance from the group, so we didn't hit anyone with the ball. My wife was hanging out with her family. All of a sudden we hear screaming. I run to the water and see my BIL pulling my nephew, a 2-year-old boy, from the water. He was gasping and crying. He'd wandered into the water and been knocked over by a wave. Sil started screaming at my daughter, saying that she'd told her to watch him and calling her a selfish brat and a spoiled little witch and other things. I got so mad. I told my Sil that my daughter is 6 and not old enough to be responsible for a child. I said she was a worthless piece of crap for not minding her kid. My wife had to grab our daughter and then drag me off because I was hopping mad. Some think I was right, but others are saying it's ridiculous to expect a woman who almost lost her child to be rational and I way overreacted. Should I have been more understanding? Nephew is all right, by the way. He didn't inhale any water or need to go to hospital. Not the asshole. Ultimately she put a 6-year-old in charge of her 2-year-old. Whether or not she was expected to be rational after he was in a dangerous situation, she is the one who endangered her child. And then she took it out on your child, who was probably terrified at all the screaming and things with your nephew. However she was feeling, I would have felt the same way in your position. How dare she attack your 6-year-old so viciously, with actual insults, right then about that. I am on your side here, completely. I'd have torn her a new one. Not the asshole. It's ridiculous to expect a woman who almost lost her child to be rational. Yeah, well, I think it's equally ridiculous to expect a parent who's just witnessed an out-of-control woman verbally abuse their 6-year-old to be rational. Not the asshole. It is not your 6-year-old's responsibility to watch a 2-year-old. She almost lost her daughter because of her negligence. Not the asshole. She neglected her kid and wanted someone to blame that wasn't her or her husband. Also, just a heads up, POC typically refers to person of color, not piece of crap. So, really thought this story was gonna go differently. Not the asshole. I get her stress, but no one expects a little girl to be in charge of swimming. Not the asshole. Your Sil is a major asshole and a neglectful parent. Expecting a 6-year-old who is obviously being a 6-year-old and making sand, drip castles to be a lifeguard for her child is absurd.